about Franklin and its history. Visit the Historical Museum at 80 West Central Street. They're open Saturday morning and Sunday afternoon. Visit their website at franklinhistoricalmuseum.org for details. Community radio in the public interest. This is WFPRLP, Franklin on 102.9 FM. Visit us anytime, day or night, on the web at WFPR.FM. It's so nice to have you with us today.
Welcome to another edition of Talking the Blues. My name is Jim Derrick. Back again this week with my friend, collaborator, co-host. And you know what this week, Todd?
A cantankerous old coot. He knew who needs a vacation.
Yeah, Todd Monjar. Welcome, Todd. Sorry for that, but that's how you referred to yourself before.
Well, I did. I'm running on fumes, and it's all good, but I need to sit down and take a nap.
I know.
Yeah, Mark, we all set?
Chris, you good? Yeah. We on?
You should be. How come? We don't see us on the screen. That's the only
Maxine, you there?
Yeah, she's there.
I'm here.
Okay. How do I see the board?
Amy, I see you guys.
Oh, I see us over there on the top. Okay.
We can't see you, Maxine, that's all.
No.
Oh, there you are. Well, no, somebody else would. Okay, you ready? There you go.
Amy, we're right, you can see us.
We're in a big grid. Different? Okay. All right, well, welcome to the Franklin Planning Board, December 19th, 2022. This is audio and video recorded, and it's also Zoom. Call-in number is 312-626-6799. Meeting number is 8855-922-9392. I guess we'll go right to our first, we'll do general business first. And first one will be a Form H for 340 East Central Street. Partial Form H, yep. Amy, if you could give us a quick rundown, please.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Chairman. This project was approved back on October 5th, 2020. The applicant has submitted a partial Form H. This is the second partial Form H that's been submitted for the site. The first partial Form H was for the front building. It currently has the Starbucks and several other stores in it. This Form H is related actually to the entire site this time around, including the back building and the parking areas. Beta's been out for a review, and they have submitted a report to the board.
Okay, good. I think Matt did this.
Correct.
Matt, if you're there from Beta, if you could give us a run-through, please.
Sure, yes, I'm here, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. So Beta did perform a conformance observation several weeks ago. It was primarily focused on the area of Building D, which is at the rear of the commercial development. Our review did confirm that all safety items appear to be addressed at this time, with several other outstanding issues in site modifications, which include the pervious paver sidewalk around the backside of the building has been extended over to the dumpster area. Presumably, this is to facilitate trash removal. The electrical vehicle charging station has not been installed. Only a portion of the residential parking only signs have been installed, and we anticipate that this would be completed at the time of residential occupancy. The accessible parking spaces in the front of Building D have been relocated slightly to be more central at the building. We don't see any issue with this. The dumpster enclosure material has been revised from timber over to PVC. We note that this is consistent with what was used at the front of the commercial development. We did note that there didn't appear to be any construction fencing in between the commercial area and the residential area that's currently under construction. The site owner did note that the DPW is currently requiring all access ways to remain open over here so that they have access over to the well. And we did observe that some additional minor landscaping items such as loam and seed need to be completed. So that was the review of the area of Building D. While on site, we did take a walk over to the residential area just to see the current status. What we did notice is that there were several breaches seen in the erosion controls, although we didn't see any sedimentation extending past them towards the wetlands. And we also noted that there was quite a bit of trash over there and some good housekeeping needed to be done. Similarly, we did walk to the front portion of the commercial development, and just a couple of notes for the board. The guy wire that was located in the pedestrian path across the site driveway has been relocated, and there's now a striped crosswalk across the front of the site. And also the sewer pump station and emergency generator have been installed. We did reach out to the water and sewer superintendent, and he has confirmed that this system is integrated with and communicating with the town's pump system. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I also believe there may be some representatives from the applicant side here as well.
Thank you. Mike, we'll go to you at DPW if you have any comment.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt's report covered everything. We didn't have anything else outstanding other than what Matt had mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Anybody from the board have any questions, comments? Question?
Yeah, Mike Maglio. Is the comment about the construction fence that needs to remain open accurate?
So, yes, through the chair, the access is through an easement that the town has across the property to access the well behind the property. And it does get, maybe not daily use, but at least weekly use, and personnel do get out there. We do get deliveries back there with tractor trailers maybe once a month or so. So we do need access to remain open through there. I didn't look closely at the fence, the areas where they get fenced. As long as we can get trucks in and out of there, that'd be our main concerns as far as access through there.
Okay. Then my only other question is the erosion controls that, have they been repaired?
I do not believe they have been repaired as of today.
Hi, Joe Halligan, site owner. We have reconstructed and fixed all the silt fence that was slightly knocked down here and there. All the rubbish has been picked up by the landscaping company that goes there weekly to try to address it. It's kind of tough. You have prevailing winds that run from this side of town over. We're picking up all the trash. We're on top of it daily. And we did put the sacks around a couple of the storm drains that Matt had noticed, and that has been done.
Good.
I have a comment to the chair.
Sure.
I actually did a site visit there Saturday afternoon, and the place is amazing. Did a great job, Joe. The silt fence was repaired. The trash, I think that's just gonna be an ongoing problem because like he said, we've had unbelievable winds and it seems like the majority of the trash is people's trash, some construction that I noticed. I mean, it was minimal stuff. But other than that, everything seems to be okay to me. The only thing, I think would probably be a good idea, is the electrical charging conduit, maybe just put a safety cone over that. I can't see that to be installed where the residential apartments are not in use yet.
Yeah, right. That's a good idea. We'll address that, especially for snow removal.
Yeah, just,
Because of the supply chains they're hard to get right now, but also the charging stations that were triggered by MEPA for the residential component. So we would definitely have those installed prior to occupancy of the residential.
yeah, no, I think, come out nice.
Okay, good.
It's very nice.
Anybody else? Ken, Jay, Rick? Yeah, no, I comment with Willie about the charging station, same thing. just if you can keep up on the trash, obviously it's your plaza, so you're gonna wanna keep it up anyways, which is good. Site came out nice, tight site, but it still worked out, seems to flow, and, you'll do well in there, you know, and just,
If you notice, we did leave the fence up between the church property and our property, because we certainly don't want any of our debris blowing into a neighbor. But where I own both sites on the adjacent side, it's me, I'm responsible for my own cleanup, and that will be done on a weekly basis.
yeah, and just a little advice, Joe, if it does get tough, maybe just a little bit of orange fence will help quite a bit, just on the side of the residential side, so it doesn't blow all over the place, if it gets, out of control, that's all. But no, so I make a motion to, accept the partial Form H for 340 East Central Street. There's second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have a next line item of business would be for partial Form H for Panther Way. And I guess I'll go to Amy first, if you could please, Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Run through.
Yep, the planning board approved the special permit and site plan on June 29, 2020. They're in here with a partial Form H. Beta's been out to the site and has provided a letter. They've provided any outstanding items with this partial Form H submitted for temporary occupancy.
Okay, good, thank you. I'll go to Matt from Beta, if you want to give us a run-through of your punch list that you did.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I trust that everyone has the reports in their packet, and the number of items is a little more substantial on this one. This report was done a week ago, and since that time, I actually received several updates in the form of an email and some pictures from one of the members of the development team. So just wanted to highlight some of the items that have been completed since this report was issued. And that is that the curbing has been completed around the perimeter of the site and the site entrance. All the lighting has either been completed or repaired. Stop signs and accessible parking signs have been installed. The accessible route at the top of the site, essentially the walkway to the building entrance, has been completed. And the catch basins along the site driveway have all been raised to the binder course grade. These catch basin grates, my understanding, are the cascade style grates, which the town typically has more the egg box style, but considering the slope out here, I think the cascade grates would actually be very appropriate for this application. So what that does leave on the list is obviously they need to install the top course pavement when all the other items in the site are completed. On the front side of the site, there is still some missing guardrail and fencing along the front retaining wall. It was my understanding that they intend to do that later this week. One thing to note is that vertical granite curb was proposed along the entirety of the site driveway into the site. That has been revised to vertical concrete curb with the exception of what is within the town right away. It's my understanding that there is a significant lead time for all granite curb and concrete was the only thing that was available to complete at this time. They did install bollards along the front side of the building, but when we did take a look at them, there are some pretty significant gaps in them, and it seems like a bus could pretty readily back into several portions of the building, so we would recommend installing several other bollards. We did observe that there is a new drive-in entrance at the rear side of the building, near where the dumpster area is, a drive-up area adjacent to the loading area. We noted they might need some additional fencing next to one of the retaining walls. They have it along the whole top, but it doesn't extend down the steep slope. And there are several other minor areas, including grate on the outlet control structure. They need to install catch basin hoods. There are no curb inlets that were shown on the detail in the plan set. However, this is typically not required on site plans. A couple other considerations for the fire chief to give some input on. The fire hydrant adjacent to the small parking area on the side of the site was relocated about 40 feet to the northwest. And we also noted that the other fire hydrant near the westerly end of the site driveway is oriented towards the grass slope area. We did also note that the valve boxes associated with the fire hydrants have not been raised to binder grade, and we would anticipate that these need to be functional in case of an emergency. And the only other things are typical landscaping and the cleanup of miscellaneous construction debris at the site.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mike from DPW, Mike, you have any comment, question?
No, just basically got a chance to review Matt's initial report there and had some similar concerns as far as missing guardrail and the curbing, but it sounds like a lot of that's already been replaced. I don't necessarily have an issue with the cascade grates on a slope. We tend to, substitute those in some streets if there's a significant slope just to catch more storm water coming down the hill. The light poles sound like those were all taken care of. I think the biggest concern would be the curbing, the guardrail and the fencing and the fire hydrants there. We'd like to make sure those valve boxes are raised to grade so we could access those. We'd like to see that taken care of.
Okay, good, thank you. Anybody on the board have any comment, questions?
I have one through the chair. I took a ride up there today, and there was a lot of work going on. They were fixing all the stormwater grates, they were raising all that. The light pole seems to be straightened out. I didn't see that, that's not tilted, obvious. There is, like Matt was saying, a couple of sections, the guardrail on the portion of the upper lot. I don't know, it's really not where a parking area is. It's kind of at the corner of the, I don't know how to describe it. I guess, that section probably should have guardrail. The other is the bollards, like Matt said, they seem to be spaced kind of far, especially like in the picture here, the lower part where the red part of the building, maybe where there's put one in the middle, where did it go? Of where the windows are. To me, it's right where the parking spots are. That one there, I agree. And then you get the retaining wall coming from the upper to the lower. The retaining wall number 2 should be something. I think something should go there. It's got a little bit of a hill, just to be on the safe side. I don't think anybody would be walking there, but you never know. And I guess that's really about it. Other than that, a nice job. Building looks nice. Just got some things that need to be cleaned up.
Good. Go ahead, Jen.
Through the chair. One question. I know the light poles have been fixed, but the pole that was damaged in the lower parking area assume it's damaged because the buses, the way that they're parking, they're backing up and the overhang is going beyond. So is there a plan to install a guardrail that back portion of the lower area so that doesn't happen again? I know in the original site plan, all of those spots that were slated for that part of the parking lot were all indicated as car spots, but now it looks like it's all buses parking there overhanging the hill. So just wondering how that will be addressed.
Sure. I can just adjust this one real quick.
Sure.
Brad Chaffee, Canfor Property Group, the developer. So that will be for the bus drivers themselves in their cars. We're just parking the buses there just for construction to stay away from the building. So, unfortunately, it doesn't look too great the way they overhang like that, but they won't be parking there. They won't fit into the spots.
Okay.
So it's just temporary.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
I had the same concern, 5-6 feet of bus overhanging a wall like that. I had reservations with that one. I just had a couple quick questions on the overhead door in the back where it's paved up to it. Did you put a little gas separator trap inside the building for that?
We didn't, but that'll be for forklifts. So if we need to put something there,
Yeah, you probably want to put some bollards in front of
Yeah,
that, so
that's
no
not-
vehicles can get in there.
Absolutely. It's
Correct.
really just for,
Yep.
for-
So, I went up there just before the meeting, actually, a couple of hours ago. Looks like you come a long way, but still got pretty good shopping list. Maybe we just continue it, work on it for the next 2 weeks, and then come back, and then you'll have a good chunk of this taken care of, actually.
One quick
If-
question through the chair.
Sure.
Going to Jen's thought, and I wanted to say that, so where the buses are parked now overhanging, they're going somewhere else, and that will be for the drivers.
Correct.
Would parking bumpers be required? Because the curbing's pretty high now, so the finish coat is going to be what, 2.5 inches?
Yeah, you should, I think it's an 8-inch reveal is what the curb will be.
Now,
Well, no, when it's finished. I think it's now it's 10.
geez, it doesn't even look like it's that high. I would just, because the way, there was some buses parked in, when I went up, and I was, my thought was it wouldn't be very much for the bus to go over that, and like Jen was saying, that to prevent them from hitting, but if they're going other places, that's fine. So I would imagine, I guess, that will probably be high enough for the car.
It looks worse. So the bus overhang, just, I know the stat, is 12.5 feet from the tire to the rear. So it,
Really?
there's like 6 feet of flat grass before it even starts to slope. So it looks really dramatic because
Yeah.
you got that much hanging over it. That's how deep that back of the bus is. That's why on the other part of our plan where the retaining wall is, that's right to the left of the building, we have that curb line that's set so far in so the bus hits the curb so it doesn't back into the wall. So it looks, if you put the cars there, you almost don't see the front of the car. It just looks really bad because you have 12 feet.
So
extended over.
all the buses are going to the other side of the parking lot?
Correct, yeah, they're all against the building, that's how it's designed, so they're all lined up right in front, and that's why the bollards was a part concern, so we installed the bollards at the building, just, I guess, per plan. So we don't have a problem, I mean, obviously Brian and the homes just don't want it,
Well, so then,
There's
I
a lot of
mean, again,
space.
the only one that I noticed that looks like it could use another bollard would be the one where the, the front where this is here. So if that's a bus parking spot, there should be I would think a bollard should go there, just to get,
absolutely.
or parking bumpers.
Yeah, because it's a part of a little office there too, right, so, I mean, you have protection.
Just, you never know,
Yeah.
foot slips off the brake or something and,
We could
away.
have one right in between that. It's not-
Okay, that'd be great, thank you. So there'll be no stops required here at all?
We didn't have any in the plans, I mean, it's hard to tell on the pictures, but I wanna say there's maybe 15 feet from the edge of that parking plus to the building.
I mean,
So it's
we're not
decent.
doubting the bus driver, I mean, they're professional, but I mean, anything can happen, that's all.
Yeah, I think more just, being a pain with the plowing, such a big lot.
Sure,
and
yeah, no,
stops is
I
more-
agree with that, I
Yeah,
agree.
it's-
So a
but the
bollard
walls
would
of the
be,
building, I think,
would
is-
be
yeah.
probably just as good.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, go ahead. I just had a couple more quick
Oh, go
things. No, go ahead, and then I'll finish up.
Yeah, just on the list of items that are outstanding, do you anticipate, how many of in the next couple weeks before the next meeting, are you anticipating any of the additional ones being taken care of, or?
So, yeah, I guess the kind of update from that, the big ones is on the front side where the buses are overhanging right now, is the small guardrails. We have our sonotubes ready to go, everything's in there. They were doing some curbing, we just left that part, they're actually coming tomorrow to do that. So as far as a safety perspective, that would be in, we put the other, there's talk about the fence on the other retaining walls to the left of the building, there's actually a chain link fence there. So again, we installed it per plan, but when it was built, it's like, hey, maybe we should add a little bit more to the left just to be safe. So they're gonna also do that, not tomorrow, or next, so that'll be done this week. Talked to Deputy Barbieri today, and so there was a relocation of fire hydrant, which they were all part of. So he's happy to write a letter, we worked with them to do that. There was just some other logistics that happened that he didn't like, and, when you're in the field, things change. Maybe with the valve boxes, they come in and do that too. So I think those were the, I guess, big safety concerns and stuff. I guess my biggest fear just going through the hallways and stuff. We were in front of you guys, maybe a month or so ago about our tenant. So we just had logisticals with their other storage. I was worried if it starts to snow out, anything like that to get there, so I was just trying to get this kind of off the plate before we had the building commissioner and all our inspections and stuff to come in. guess any of the safety things, if there's something.
Yeah, when I drove around out back too, you wanna make sure you back up all your curbing with some kind of material, so somebody just doesn't step off the curb and break an ankle on the backside. You still got a lot of materials and siding to finish up on the upper section, some general cleanup.
And those things are all being
Yep.
installed.
Looks like you still gotta get your siding complete, the gas meters in, and looks like transformers in. I don't know if you're powered up yet, but I think if you can tighten up a few, you'll be in good shape on the next run.
When's the next,
It's not till January 9th, it's 3 weeks away.
3 weeks
So,
away.
I mean,
When are you trying to get in the building?
You could condition this partial Form H with well, I'm noticing, I think it was the fire hydrant, the fencing, and the guardrail was the biggest concerns. So that could be put on this partial Form H, and then all the other items would come in on a final Form H. If you guys wanted to do that, so they can get started in the building.
We're really trying to occupy, I'll say, the warehouse side of it. They just moved some stuff in, and there's no, it's not a public building, I guess, so it's really just the private Hamilton companies that are just.
That's why I wanted to know when you were
So there
trying to
shouldn't-
get in,
There
but,
shouldn't be anybody going there other than the employees or the buses, so.
and they'll be utilizing the back section?
Correct. So
So-
really the upper part is just for them,
Can-
the lower section with this guardrail is for the homes.
All right,
That's
could,
their section.
could you just put some gravel or something behind the curbs? Just
Oh,
because
that's
if a guy's
yeah,
doing
I
snow removal, I don't want him to step on the curb and go for a header, that's
No,
all.
they're actually, if anyone was by today, if you were by, you'd see them up there with the grading bucket. They were grading all behind there and moving it all.
Yeah, I was up there this afternoon, they didn't finish the islands and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
they
so
were.
I wanted to make sure.
I would
So
imagine
maybe,
this is-
maybe what Amy said, what was it? I apologize, you had,
I know that the fire hydrant, which Brad's working
Yep.
on with that, and you guys were concerned about the fencing and maybe a little bit of additional guardrail. Those were
and
kind
so,
of the three.
and
items.
confirm that all the backfill of the curbing's done, so just so nobody steps off and rolls an ankle.
Where they were working today up
Okay.
top was the last section up the hill they already did.
Okay.
And again, just with the holidays and everything.
No, I get it,
they were-
get it.
with
You
the
wanna
way
get
they
'em
were
in.
trying to-
Well, you wanna get 'em in too, you know,
I feel
you
like
got-
we'll be stuck until,
And so, can we just have Beta confirm?
Make a motion then to accept a partial Form H with the review of the letter from the fire department accepting the relocation of the fire hydrant, additional guardrail, was it?
Yeah, a little bit of
Little
guardrail, yep.
Guardrail, some additional,
Just material on the
Materials.
curbings. Yep, and just clean up the site, just to
Yeah,
make it so
side
it's
of it.
safe.
Absolutely.
and then, if Beta's able to confirm, anything else?
Notify us or Amy, and
Notify
then
Amy and building
we'll
commissioner.
go from there.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you
No?
so much. I mean,
Okay, no, building's
we're gonna make it
nice.
safe for them to get into.
Sure.
Motion, just the motion.
Yeah, I second
Yeah.
the motion to release
In the
the
dock.
partial formation with those conditions.
Okay, all in favor?
We're just.
Aye.
Aye,
And changes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holiday, thank you.
Yeah, I knew, yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
All right.
Just, that was our town administrator. That they got a hold of, our facilities director, and they're
Okay.
aware of the leak. Someone may pop in, may not tonight or first thing in the morning, but they've been working on it, so
Perfect.
they're well aware.
Nice.
Yes. I'll listen
Okay.
to Zoom when I make that decision.
So, excuse me, actually,
Amy, we've made a motion to release the partial Form H with a few conditions.
Okay,
Based on
thank
those
you. And
conditions.
I'll listen to the tape to get
Okay.
the exact wording when I write up the decision. Up, here they come now.
yeah.
Or here
And then,
comes Gus.
okay, so I'll open
Okay.
up our next public hearing, which would be for subdivision rules and regulations, section 300-13 / other improvements. If we can go to Amy.
So, I have, our attorney, Sorrell here, town attorney Mark Sorrell with us as well. When I think we left it off, I know that the board was satisfied with the revised change, the proposed changes, but they said run this by our attorney Sorrell. Both of the revised conditions had contained wordage that was gonna be based on an occupancy permit, and we've been advised that is not possible. We cannot withhold an occupancy permit. It just does not work that way. So talking with Attorney Sorrell, we had come up with two different ideas. The first one, as far as the sidewalk, we've always found that The issue with the sidewalk was installing it after the homeowner bought their house and had to have their driveway ripped up to have the concrete go across it. And I will, our town engineer, Mike Maglio, did call me today, and he doesn't like this current wording. Because you're going from maybe a flat sidewalk to a sloped driveway back to a flat. So we're not sure if this wording will work out for the sidewalk. So you may need to think of something else on that. But as far as the trees, that is something that's doable. I think we actually recently did that with the Bogan Estates, where we've asked them, we kind of negotiated about 50% that they install and 50% of a contribution. So if they're satisfied with the tree wording, that can work. I'm not really sure what direction we'll go with the sidewalk wording, how the board wants to address it.
Okay. Beth?
Yeah, I would just defer to others to present some words on the sidewalks. I don't
Yeah,
really know
well,
how
I was gonna
address
defer
that
back to
one.
Mike with that one, but
And then I have a comment on the tree.
you wanna
in
do the
wording.
tree?
It just says the developer may, in negotiations with the planning board, eliminate up to 50% of the required tree plantings and a monetary contribution to the town. I feel like there's a word missing there.
Like, is it supposed to be?
In
Should it
lieu
say
of?
in lieu of?
Yeah.
In lieu of?
Or, yeah, it sounds like you're saying you can
Just
get rid of 50% of trees and,
Yeah.
and don't make a contribution to the
Yeah.
town.
Originally, and provide, it should
A
say
monetary.
provide.
And
a monetary
provide.
Contribution
Yes,
to the
yeah.
town.
Okay.
That's what.
And instead provide.
Yeah,
I feel like there needs to be a,
and maybe, yeah, there's just a word missing.
yeah.
Okay.
So, I actually wanted to add something to that too. I guess I would say under extreme conditions or something like that, you can't put the trees in for some unforeseen reason, whether you have ledge or water or anything such as that, we still want the trees in the subdivision. So I don't want them to have an out. Yeah, here's $5,000, go plant the trees somewhere
Well, you can
else.
say may, instead of in negotiation with the planning board, you could say may in the discretion of the planning board.
Yeah, I wanna make it so that we're
For
not
good
going down,
cause.
yeah, we're not going down 9 different
In the discretion of
roads.
the planning board for good cause, something like that.
Yeah, because who's gonna follow this tree planting aspect? I mean, Amy's not gonna go out every 3 months looking for new trees
Well,
planted,
the
so.
irony in my experience is it's generally the homeowners don't want them.
Yeah, well,
Right, but I mean,
But, you know,
the
they're
whole
cutting
intent
down
of this
the
is
whole-
that we're clear cutting land to
Exactly.
put in houses. We want the trees for the carbon
Right.
offset and all the good of
Correct.
the environment.
Correct.
And even, we're not
So-
also being specific about a monetary contribution to the town. Is that going to anything having to do with replacing or planting trees somewhere else in the?
Tree fund.
it would
Right, but it
go,
doesn't say that in this wording at all whatsoever.
But I had discussed with Amy, basically setting up a fund, and yes, it would go in there to purchase public trees for other locations. You can certainly flesh out the language if you feel the need.
yeah, I mean, and I agree with you, it's, and it'd be nice to see if it's done on a yearly basis, like some kind of report stating, yeah, 15 trees or 40 trees were planted based out of this, but it's just something else for somebody to follow, I guess. So I'm kind of leaning a little bit harder to get them in the roads, so it's the town and the staff's not chasing planting of trees all over town for a developer that just didn't want to put 20 trees in somewhere. That's all.
I don't disagree with you, Mr. Chairman, but it's nice to have an option in case that does happen.
Oh, yeah, like ledge, water, or anything such as that detrimental, part of the site that they can't get it in. But, yeah, we just don't want them to have an opt-out every single time they come in, that's all.
And the other point was that I put in, and I think Amy incorporated, I don't have the final draft, but that it would be based on, they wouldn't gain anything per se because the contribution that they would make would be based upon the cost of an individual tree purchase and planting.
Yep. Now, would that be at the town's rate, or would that be at the contractor's rate when the trees go to get put in?
It'd be at the contractor's rate. I mean, it is
No, I mean, whose
bonded.
responsibility would it be to put the trees in at that point if there's the fund in there, say there's $300 in an account for one particular
Well,
tree?
I
Who
think-
plants
I
it?
think-
Does it the town, or is it the
Well, let me put
developer?
it this way, I think that that's a case of, it would be in-house work, so it wouldn't be any more expensive, and we actually get advantage of purchases in bulk through state lists and all, so this is one of the exceptions, I think, where the town might be able to do it at least as cheaply as a developer, if not more so.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want more burden placed on the town for something, that's all.
No, absolutely.
You know, okay, so anybody else have comment on the trees? Jay, you, no? Good. Rick?
I mean, on the
Good?
sidewalk.
I'm good.
Yeah, I was gonna approach the sidewalk too, if everybody was all set with the trees. I think we kinda know what road we wanna go with that. But if you wanna go with sidewalk first?
No, I mean, finish up the trees, we can address that, right?
No, I think we're set with trees. I think if we can summarize it with Amy. You wanna go with sidewalk?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's as easy as saying the grade should continue across the sidewalk, you know, something about an accessible path. Because that's how we do sidewalks, right? It's gotta have a continuous accessible path.
Yeah. Based on slope and.
No, I just,
Yeah.
it's gotta meet ADA and
Correct.
architectural access board standards
Correct.
for an accessible path across the driveway. That's it. It can be asphalt or whatever. It can change grades. It just has to have what's
Continuous.
defined as a continuous pathway.
Mike, I was gonna grab you at DPW to get your thoughts on that.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I saw this morning, and my initial reaction was basically the same point that Jay just made, is the biggest concern I'd have is making that change with that. You want to make sure that you do have the accessible path, and then the path crossing the driveway does meet the ADA and the AAB requirements that we need to meet. I mean, normally when we build a new concrete sidewalk on a neighborhood, we're running the sidewalk through the driveways to show that it is a continuous path, show the pedestrians do have a right-of-way crossing the driveways there. If we were to switch it and just do asphalt within the driveway, I think it would just complicate trying to meet those requirements. It might look good on paper when the contractor goes to build it. A lot of times it gets a little tricky, and then I'd hate to be in the position where we'd be chasing contractors or going back and ripping up driveways and replacing them if they didn't meet all the specs as a sidewalk would normally meet. So that was my main concern with that, the way that was written.
Yep. I agree. I actually agree with that. I'd like to keep it that way myself, based on the concrete. Anybody else? Beth? No? Jay? Rick? All set? So, go ahead.
Yeah, so
Mark?
actually, this was brought to me in the first place, as Amy alluded to, on the penalty aspects of it, the ability to withhold an occupancy permit, and sidewalk being part of public safety, there may actually be some leverage that you do have. Actually, ironically, Gus was just here, but we did have a brief conversation with him. He clearly could not withhold for failure to plant trees, because it's not, he's wearing two hats. When he's, occupancy permit is part of the state building code, basically. But independent health or safety issue, such as driveway, pedestrian, that sort of thing, probably can.
Okay.
That being said, you might look at it again from the timeline of when do you want the developer to get this in, and deal with it as part of the specs on the right-of-way, Form H type stuff.
Okay. And actually back when I was building, if I remember correctly, we used to have to get sign off at DPW prior to getting our C of O anyway, so I'm wondering if that could help, Mike and DPW and Beta, confirm that the sidewalks are actually installed prior to the C of O. It's just another sign off. We used to get water, sewer, and all of them, make it part of the condition.
Well, that's what we have Beta for now.
Yes, but I want to make sure that it's incorporated per se. That's all.
Oh, Mike's got his hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, I can just jump in. So on a lot of the building permits and certificates of occupancy, a lot of times I will get flagged on those for, Gus will send those to me to sign off on the permits. And so I do got the opportunity on many of them, not necessarily all of them, but I do see a lot of them come across my desk. I do sign off on those just to verify that they meet the water and sewer requirements for those individual permits, and then any street excavation permits, or in these cases of subdivisions, if there's any outstanding issues with the particular lot. So sometimes I will catch those. So sometimes that does happen on a lot of those.
Yes,
Just wanted to
maybe
let
we
you know
can
that.
make that part of the inspection, the part of the sidewalk and apron, so it's done complete and it's safe for whoever goes in there. Make sense?
Yeah, I think that is a good way to
Okay,
incorporate it.
okay. how do I word it? I can't remember.
I just have, I think, the last sentence we have, driveways shall maintain their asphalt surface, and I was gonna say, and shall maintain an accessible grade to ADA compliant.
No, Mike wanted concrete on the aprons right through. Right, Mike?
Yeah, so my recommendation would be if the plans call for a concrete sidewalk, to be continuous with the concrete. If it calls for an asphalt sidewalk, it's less of an issue, because it'd just all be asphalt anyway. But just keeping the concrete uniform running through the driveways, that's the way it's been handled for the planning board since I've been here. I would recommend that keeping that. I think the key would be to just making sure you do maintain the ADA requirements going across there. I don't know if there's a benefit to keeping the driveways all asphalt as opposed to and stopping the sidewalks on either side.
I don't think we need to make, then there's no changes. Right? I guess our issue was I thought the board's issue in the very beginning was because nobody wants that concrete sidewalk put in because they've already purchased the house. The driveway now gets ripped up. And we were trying to say, well, then do it before the person moves in, which now we're being told we can't do that.
Right.
So I don't know if we're gonna make any change to this, if that's the case. I think then we would just stick with the current regulation.
I believe what happened in the last one that came up, I think it was down off of Washington Street there, the driveway was put in, the sidewalks came in afterwards after the house was sold, and the way the contractor did the work, he kind of left the homeowner hanging a little bit after he was already there. I think that was more just coordination between the developer and the builder and the homeowner, as opposed to necessarily the way this is written. I don't know if you'd really want to make the change there, or just, it's one of those things where I think it's just more communication between the builder and the homeowner at the time.
Go ahead, Jay.
If I'm correct, Attorney Searle, did you say that occupancy permits could be withheld for sidewalks?
Public safety, yeah.
Because it was public safety? So then we could actually revisit the initial intent of this, which was to provide a continuous pathway, is that correct, or?
He's on much stronger footing withholding an occupancy permit on a safety issue such as the sidewalk. But you gotta find a practical resolution here.
So, it could be thought that if there was a sidewalk in front of one home and not in front of the other homes, leading up to the developed right-of-way, that a person having to walk in the road and off the sidewalk would create a safety hazard there, and by
Right.
it's in the best interest of public safety to have the sidewalk continuous from the point of
The
occupancy.
other thing, in terms of composition, regardless of what you've done historically, you're basically, what you can require of a developer or builder is whatever the town itself requires of itself. And there's all kinds of sidewalk construction out there. I don't know frankly what right now is the town standard, but that's what is applicable to a developer regardless of what the rules and regs might happen to be saying.
So I think, yeah, I think we're all on the same page. It's, it's taken 8, 9 months to a year to build a house. Developers got all the time in the world to get a sidewalk by that property in due course. You only got 3 months of, inclement weather for winter that you can't do sidewalks. You got you have 9 or 8 other months to get it complete. So it's up to them to figure out their own schedule and make sure the thing is done properly, so that way the people can travel up and down the road safely with kids and whatever.
Yeah.
So I think we just leave it, and if the concrete goes through.
I mean, I'm impartial to the concrete versus the driveway, but Mike's the guy inspecting it, so I'm gonna defer to him.
I think we just leave it as written as we speak, Mike. It's gonna be a better system too. It's gonna be more monolithic. It's, especially if you're plowing them, you're not going from asphalt back to, concrete and back and catching the edges. They're not always perfect. When you pour that, it's all one monolithic run, and it's a seamless application. Plus, it's stronger in the long run.
So it does seem like that we can revisit the part of the bylaw we were looking to, or I should say rule and regulation that we're looking to modify in terms of having to have all the sidewalks continuous to the point of occupancy. Do we need to add language to that it's in the interest of public safety, or?
No, no.
We can just proceed
That
with
was the basis for my analysis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the tree section, we'll just, I guess we'll just have to put our minds together and come back to that one at some point
Yeah.
then.
It seems like the tree thing is
I
not.
thought we were settled on the tree thing, we're not settled on the tree?
No, I just, for the writing of it, that's all. Just make sure
Yeah.
that we get all our points that we're aiming for, that's all.
Well, we can't use trees with whole documents, so we just have to find some.
Could-
other-
correct.
The tree thing is close. It sounded like what we were saying is to simply change it to say, the developer may, with the discretion of the planning board, eliminate up to 50% of the required tree plantings and instead provide a monetary contribution to the town.
Yep.
Again, the next sentence.
If constraints don't allow for the trees to be planted, of some sort, like the ledge or water or anything, like any obstruction.
Which is why we're saying
Yeah, for
the
the 50%.
discretion of the
Well, if
planning.
you
Correct.
wanted,
Right.
that's what the discretion the planning board was supposed to
Yeah.
address, but you want more specific language, we can work on that.
That's all, I
Don't
think.
think you need it, do you?
Well, I would, just that way there, and then you can just write, it, you know, et cetera, so it's pretty much understood what your point would be.
One thing we risk when we write specific language is boxing ourselves into a corner.
I get it.
for specific
And then you
stuff,
write
so
et cetera, so that means it
Yeah.
opens it up for other
I'm
things
gonna-
too,
I
you know what I'm
prefer the
saying?
attorney.
You don't wanna leave it wide open, so
Yeah.
it's just,
No, Jennifer had a perfectly valid point that frankly, regardless of the homeowners, this is for the interest of the public at large. If we're going, the town's gonna, ultimately accept the roads as public roads, then the town has an independent interest in having them tree lined.
correct. Okay. All good? Okay? Good?
good.
Sweet. All right, good.
Continue the hearing
I don't,
till I get final verbiage in front of you?
yeah, you wanna?
To the
you
next
wanna-
meeting?
You wanna do that? And then
Yeah.
we just read it and bless it then?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
put the sidewalk back in regarding the occupancy, and I'll make a couple of those edits to the tree
Okay.
and have final wording at the next hearing.
Okay, good, thank you. Thank you, Mark,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Have a good holiday.
Thank you, you too.
So,
So motion?
Yep.
Motion to continue until January 9th.
9.
Second?
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Wrote it correctly. Okay. Last public hearing for the night would be for 515 West Central Street. This is a site plan modification, and make a motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And if you want to introduce yourself, please, to the
Sure,
board.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Edward Cannon on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined tonight by Amanda Cavalieri from G&H here in person. The applicant, Manoj Gandhi, is joining via Zoom, along with Josh Klein from Stonefield Engineering on parking. I'll give a brief sort of trail of where we've been. You know, this has been in front of the board some time. We haven't been in front of the board since May of 2021, at which time the board denied the site plan application. We appealed on grounds that this is a Dover amendment use. And my compliments to the board and to council, Mr. Winter, and I appreciate very much the creativity in trying to work out a resolution. Hopefully, we've been able to do that. And so the court has, by agreement, sent us back to the board, hopefully to land on an area that works for us and works for the board to address the board's concerns. So we're back here. At the time, we had just about met all of the sort of concerns that Beta had raised, and at just the time that the board just had different ideas as to what they felt was acceptable. So we've come back with exactly where we left off in May of 2021 with the exact same plan, and so would like to pick up from there. We do have a new board. Ms. Whirling wasn't on the board at that time, but I think everyone else sat through the hearing at that time. So we did re-notice, re-public notice, so we're perfectly fine with this board as constituted. I just don't know to what extent you want us to sort of work through all that we've already worked through. So we're prepared to do that if the board would like, but we also don't want to, sort of rehash things that the board is fine with as well.
All right, good, thank you. If maybe a run-through for the board for.
I'm actually fairly familiar, but I don't wanna, if you.
So,
it's appropriate,
I
might
think
step
maybe a refresh from Amanda, like the layout, your train of thoughts again. It has been a little while for all of us, and.
I wasn't here, so it'd be nice to have a
Oh.
summary, so.
Beth wants a full-time.
No, I don't need a
No.
full presentation.
But give a,
just
if you could give a good
That's what we thought would have.
briefing,
Amanda sort of take you through the plan.
probably gonna trigger some more questions, but yeah,
Sure.
if you could please, that'd be great.
Happy to.
Sure.
Well,
Um,
it's up to you guys.
I'm
sorry I interrupted.
No. So, yes, this parcel is actually part of an original site plan.
You wanna move your mic in front so they can hear you?
Yeah. Good?
Yeah, so that way
Good.
they can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is part of an original site that was separated, over time into 3 lots with a private way. So parcel A is the private right-of-way, and there's 3 lots that are off it. You have the Wendy's that's up in the front off of Route 140. The road goes back, and to the left is the Midas at the rear, and then to the right, which is our subject property.
Could you do me a favor? Could you point that
I
out so
can.
people can
Yes.
see while they're watching as well?
You can grab the mic.
Just because a lot of people weren't familiar with this one.
All right, let's see if I can do this, because I'm not holding the microphone. All right, how's that? Good? Okay. So, this is parcel A right here. This is right off of 140. We have our Wendy's lot. You have Midas, which is up to the rear. This cul-de-sac was never constructed. It was never intended to be constructed, and it was meant just to divide. It was originally approved as a site plan. So now it is a 3-lot subdivision with the private way. Our subject parcel here is about 1.3 acres, and we're proposing a driveway that goes into the facility for a proposed 2-story daycare. 5,200 square foot footprint with 2 stories, so 10,400 square feet. We also have a 3,790 square foot play area for the children, and there's 33 parking spaces, which we've provided crosswalks that'll go across the way to a sidewalk and a front entrance. And then we have, for the fire department, we have a 20-foot wide pervious paver access road that'll go behind the building. We also have dumpster for trash removal, so the emergency vehicles and the dumpster or trash truck can come in and go around the building and stay out of the area of the traffic for the students and the parents that drop off, and go around, and then they can exit through the Wendy's parking lot and go up. That's pretty much the gist of the site layout. We have addressed the snow storage, emergency access, and the trash removal. I think that about does it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
You'll probably get some, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
go to council too, if you wanted to speak. Just to give everybody a briefing.
Sure. And I don't know if this is the time for me to necessarily jump in on the background where you're talking about sort of the technical, site elements at this point, but I just wanted to maybe add a couple of comments to council's, introduction, if you will. And that's that, on the remand, there's 2 other elements that we're probably going to speak to as this public hearing progresses. And just to remind everyone, you've heard this from me before, but I'll state it during the public hearing. We've also engaged a traffic consultant, so we have a peer reviewer who's going to be chiming in I have a draft of his report. We just got it right before the weekend. It's the holidays. He wasn't able to finalize it. So we're not going to be able to get to that tonight, but I should have it for you very shortly. And the other element that we'll be discussing at some point when we get past sort of the introductory comments is some operational concerns. Not just the traffic and parking arrangements, but operational concerns about phasing up on the occupation of the daycare. So I just wanted to remind everybody, those are kind of the central points that we're going to talk about as we go along here, but let's get reacquainted with the project and we can sort of get into the deeper end of the pool as we get along. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize, I skipped over Amy at first, but if Amy, you wanna comment on anything?
Yeah, I don't really have any comments. I think there was a draft capacity conditions kind of provided to us to review, for the board to review. I guess really to start the conversation about, what would satisfy having the daycare constructed. I think that's what
Okay.
the board had wanted to take a look at.
Yep. I just had one quick question to Amanda and your team. Is there a way to get us this drawing just showing just the asphalt layout without all the contour lines? I mean, just a cleaned up version per se, so get a better perspective. I can see the cul-de-sac. You're showing a cul-de-sac, the cul-de-sac's not actually in there, it's a paper cul-de-sac per se. I just wanna make sure we're all seeing clearly entrance, exit, queuing, et cetera. If it's feasible, if we can take some of that stuff out, so I'm not sure if Jen was here or Beth, so you get a clearer view of what we're looking at, as well as myself. if
Yeah,
you could
we
do
had sent
that.
over the colored one.
Color version.
Yeah, we have a
You
colored
do?
version that we can send over. I didn't bring it with me for this evening.
Yeah, just to,
I didn't get it. No, it was from before, when we had been in front of the commission before, and we had done the overlays and presented on,
Okay.
on
just to
Zoom.
kinda clean it up so everybody just sees traffic pattern, asphalt, and, pretty much parking, so we can get a better perspective of it, cause there is quite a bit here for trying to weed your way through, if you could, okay? Before we go to the draft copy, it's new to you guys, do you have any questions,
Oh, I just had one more,
comments, or-
to piggyback off you, maybe labeling something like East Central Street, or West Central Street. I was actually confused at first, because I'm looking at Wendy's from the, I'm like, wait a second, there's a drainage lot or something over there. This doesn't make any sense as apartments, and I have to spin myself around, so. That's
Yeah, that's
really,
just the
really,
overall.
really super minor one.
No, that's just the overall,
It's kind of a blow up of the locust,
No,
you mean,
no,
or-
just even adding like at the curb line,
Oh.
like Central Street.
Oh, okay, all right.
Out there.
yeah.
Rick, Jen, and Willie, any comments, questions before we?
Well, I don't
Kinda-
know. I got tons of questions, but I don't think any of them
Okay.
will need to be addressed,
Yeah.
come out at this time, so I mean, we just need to maybe
Okay.
go to this.
So
To
let
draft.
me, I'll go to Mike. Mike, if you're out there, from DPW. Mike, I know it's been a bit for this drawing. Do you have anything you want to present now, or?
I don't, Mr. Chairman. I saw it in the agenda, but I haven't reviewed these plans since the last time they were in front of the board. I don't remember any outstanding issues that we had, other than the items brought up by the board at that time.
Okay, thank you. Anybody raising their hand? No? Okay. Okay, you wanna go, go ahead.
I think, it's a good start to things, just, seeing the traffic study and some of the other information that needs to be presented will help and guide this discussion, but, we've been advised and have some information to review and which direction to be heading, so.
Do we wanna talk about the draft?
I have a question through the chair about that.
Sure.
Just some verbiage before we get into reviewing some of the fundamental issues, but you mentioned that the cul-de-sac was never built, but yet, and isn't planning on being built, but yet, this draft talks about the town having, concerns about queuing, so that drop-off, or pickup such that the queue is spilling back onto the cul-de-sac, being an observed potential issue, but, about 2/3 of the way down the paragraph, so I'm just confused as to why the cul-de-sac would be mentioned if, in fact, the cul-de-sac is not ever going to be built.
Well,
Through the chair, that was basically just to advise Beth from the historical discussions that we had had. She hadn't been part of the original ones. So to see the site plans and they have the cul-de-sac shown on there, but to explain to her that that was never intended or planned to
Okay.
be constructed.
Okay.
To continue off of Jen, it's almost more limiting to yourselves to say cul-de-sac, because on the plan, right, the cul-de-sac comes into the driveway, or at least it looks like it. Is that correct? Like so you'd wanna almost say like edge of driveway rather than cul-de-sac?
That's why I wanted a cleaned
Yeah,
up
'cause
plan, so it's a little bit easier.
Well, no,
for
I mean,
everybody to-
Amanda, does the edge of the driveway fall, I'm correct that there's parking spaces within what would be the cul-de-sac layout, correct? Yeah, so it would probably it'd be more beneficial to the operation of the site to move that. Yeah, so like that's the edge of the right of way, right, in those parking spots, so you would, to say there's no backing up into the cul-de-sac, then there'd be no traffic allowed there under that language, we'd probably wanna modify that, so it's like driveway opening or something like.
Driveway, right of way.
Yeah, well, the right of way was in with the parking lot, so you'd wanna say driveway opening, not the right of way.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
No, okay. So I guess I'll bring it up. I guess this draft was written up, it's broken into like 3 or 4 pieces. Myself, I would like to see potentially 60% of the building run at 6 to 9 months, and then do a second piece of the puzzle, rather than having 4 pieces of the puzzle, because the first couple months, I mean, you're just getting open, and you don't have all your traffic flows, you don't have all your students in, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just trying to kind of consolidate it into 2 pieces, 60%, then 100% if it works, rather than breaking it up, because who's gonna be able to go out there and get their eyes on, say, section 2 of the other 15%? I think it could be a little more workable, if that's possible, to make it into 2 pieces. I'm not sure about the rest of the board, how you feel, but I think it could be a little bit easier for us to see it, but your facility would be up and running at that point, so you'll have a better feel for it. So we'll have a better feel for it as well.
Small increments might not be enough to
Make a decision on it.
right.
Because they're little pieces of the puzzle. I just, and I don't wanna make this any harder than it has to be either. I just want, if it's gonna work, it's gonna work. If it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. It's
Sure.
just, you know what I mean? If that makes sense.
So start at 60, get to a certain point, 6 to 9 months out. If that works, go to 100%, but then leave a span of time, maybe up to
The
12 months.
evaluation time after, say, 8 months or 9 months after the facility is actually functioning at its capacity at 60%, rather than, 35%. And then all of a sudden, we're looking at bad numbers, but we've already passed the time frame. Give it 11 months to a year to get functioning fully, so you can see the whole operation run. If that, I think that could be a little bit easier for both the town and for us and
Yeah.
yourself to try to manage it.
Yeah,
If that makes sense?
Since we do have to come back for another hearing anyway for traffic, let me just talk to the applicant about that, but that certainly sounds workable. I think we're on track to getting somewhere on that.
Yeah, and like I said, we're not, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna work together on this. Okay? How's the rest of the board feel with that? I mean, you're comfortable with that?
So could you provide like an example of the time frame you were thinking? Like
I'm thinking
60%
like,
for 6 months and
say
then-
8, 9 months at 60%, 9
Yeah.
months, so it gives them the opportunity to get the students in, get
And
the
then-
staff in, get the deliveries in, get all the parts and pieces running
Yep.
at the 60% level.
And then go to 100% in 9 months?
No, then we evaluate it from there for another additional 3 months, and if we don't see any discrepancy at the 60%, any serious discrepancies, then you bump it up to say the 100% at a year.
All right.
If you're gonna see it, you're gonna most likely see it at the 60% level if there's gonna be problems, potentially.
I do think it would warrant review at full operating capacity as well, with that jump from 60 to 100.
Attorney, this agreement's for 1 year. What happens at the expiration?
Then it expires.
So we'll have, like, what's the technical, it goes to 100% capacity?
Correct.
So we would need to rework this agreement because of those.
We could have a reevaluation at 100% if we wanted to. We could have the last bite at it, say, potentially.
That was the idea, is to create a span of time so that at 100%, the board has the opportunity to say, hey, it was working at 60, but it's not quite working at 100.
Exactly, so rather than having rather than having 4 or 5 pieces as it's written, we'll probably just have 3 approaches to it.
Yeah, the nuance that Attorney Winter and I discussed, and I'm sure he'll chime in on this as well, was that from the applicant standpoint, we can't come back and say, Mother May, we go from 60 to 100. So if the driving force has to be, is there a problem? And if there's not a problem, you get to 100. But I understand that we have to create a span of time, once it gets to 100, to give the board an opportunity to evaluate it. And that, so there's a span of time, and once you get to that point, if it's operating and there's been no problem, then the condition would expire, and then they go on like any other business owner. That's the intent. And so, yes, if we need to rework it to get to there, that's absolutely fine, because that's the intent.
Okay, good, thank you.
I just wanted to add a quick comment,
Sure.
just so it was clear to the board, that this proposed condition was a draft that council put together as a talking point for this conversation. I just wanted to be clear if it wasn't. This isn't something we discussed or negotiated. And in fact, council asked me to provide comment, and I didn't, with the express purpose of I didn't want to get in front of the board. I wanted the benefit of this conversation. And after I've heard what you've had to say, what your concerns are, what I'll ask you at the end of this meeting tonight is if you're comfortable authorizing me to work with council on a new draft. So I'll take all your comments and concerns. I have some of my own, and we'll rework it out based on what we've heard tonight. But I just wanted to let you know this isn't something that was sort of prepackaged for you. It's just a starting point.
It was a
talking
conversation.
point. Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Just want to make sure the board got that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah, through the.
Chair,
Sure, go ahead.
I just have a question about what is considered a legitimate and quantifiable concern? Is there any way to identify those or expand on what those would be? I mean, is it a car accident? Is it a kid getting run over? Is it?
That's a loaded question.
Well, I mean, it's just
Queuing.
generic.
Well, the line queuing.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, line
What does
queuing.
the line queuing mean? Is it's taking too long, too
Yeah,
short?
they're backing up.
Backing up?
Yeah.
how
Creating
far?
a safety hazard for the students getting dropped off, things such as that, yeah.
If I may, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman, through you to the board and to the applicant, when you see the peer review letter, I've seen the draft, and I'll mention that there's a couple of concerns. And so I think what our reviewer is going to identify are some of those trigger points, say, here's what I'm worried about may happen. So that's what we're going to be looking for. So if it doesn't happen, great, we know we're in the clear. If it does happen, well, that's the thing we needed to talk about and address. So I think we'll be able to identify some of those in sort of categorical ways, not, specific, events, but, sort of general categories that we'll be able to say, these are the things we're looking out for. It's only fair to the applicant to know what those things are too, because they're going to want a chance to address them.
Sure.
So if that's creeping up, there's no reason to wait until the review period. We'll address them in real time. If we get to the point where our peer reviewer comes back and takes a look and said, oh, I was worried about that, and I see it's happening. Here's my report. Can I share this with the applicant? Well, now we know. So one of the things I know the applicant is very sensitive to is having some certainty, predictability, right? And so we want to define what those benchmarks and milestones are going to be and what we're going to be looking for when we perform that review so that we both know what's going to happen and what the expectations are when we get to that point in the timeline. So I think when you see this report, hopefully for your next meeting, that'll be a little bit more clear. Thank you.
And we wouldn't be sitting here otherwise, so, yeah,
No,
exactly.
Yeah, I appreciate that, absolutely.
I guess Beth had her hand up first?
No, just going to comment again that, I think, looking at this preliminary, suggestion for the draft condition is good, but having all the background information to be able to make some suggestions would be important. So needing that traffic study, I think if the attorney here is indicating that there might be some things in that we want to consider.
Some additional
Would be
information.
helpful to have that in order to be able to comment further on what we want to suggest here. And I think authorizing the attorneys to work together to come with some language for us to review when we have that traffic study for the next meeting would be helpful.
Absolutely.
I got a question through the chair. So, going back to, basically they'd be like on probation, 60% and 100%. 60%, things were fine, things were good, we're at 60%, no incidents, everything's fine. They go to 100%, and all of a sudden we start having issues. And the issues are not created by the daycare, because we have two other businesses coming in and out of that same roadway. So now that there's been accidents, and this hasn't even happened yet. And it's happening because people are taking lefts. I've seen one, just happened to be going by, and there was an accident. So they're at 100%, and there's, say, 3 accidents in the course of a month. How is the board or anybody going to determine that it's their fault when it's not their,
Well, I think
potentially,
this was specifically written, the draft was for their particular site, not the
Right.
whole thing.
So-
But I think the traffic study that we see may bring that up potentially too.
Right, so what I'm getting at is that, accidents happen all day long. So what we're doing is kind of pointing the finger at the daycare that if there's 3 accidents, oh well.
Well,
So now they're being, penalized also. How do you determine where that accident came, where that person came from if it wasn't from the daycare? And to say it was from the daycare, so what do you do about it then?
well, there'll be documentation prior to that, because if there's any accidents now between Wendy's and Midas, it's documented, so we could actually pull that paperwork out if necessary.
But who's
then-
going to do that? That's the
No,
thing. is that-
but the information's there for us to look at and say, all of a sudden, there are substantially more accidents. Maybe it could be from them, maybe it could be from the Wendy's, maybe it could be from Midas, we don't know, but the documentation will be there already prior to them moving in, so, literally, like you said, we can't point the finger at them because we don't know if it's them or not, but.
May I, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman? And Mr. Winter, certainly step in if you disagree, but with our discussions with the judge, I think the law is fairly clear, and I think the judge felt so, that traffic that is off-site is not within the purview on a Dover Amendment use like this. So if you're talking about left-hand turns onto 140, that wouldn't be something that would be reviewable. It's really on-site.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So what are we determining? God forbid, if there's car accidents within the parking lot, that's a problem, obviously.
Well, that would be one of our concerns, just
So-
on
so-
the last.
So just so I understand, and I guess hopefully everybody else, so like you just said, taking a left or a right onto 140 doesn't even come into play.
Exactly.
Okay.
Correct?
And just to clarify on that last point, as a general rule under the Dover Amendment, right, generalized traffic concerns, existing traffic concerns, that's not going to be something that's reviewable under the Dover Amendment here. Where it becomes a little bit more complicated, so the easiest case, all right, people can't negotiate the parking. So that's clearly a parking-related problem. But at some point, you go from traffic to parking because people have to get to those spots, in and out of them. So there's a little bit of on-site circulation in order to access the site, egress from the site, get in and out of those spots at peak AM, peak PM periods that we're going to have to look at too. And so there's a little bit of a surgical point we're going to have to make there.
A little bit of an overlap.
But I agree, this is not an exercise in how do we solve the traffic problems in this subdivision as it relates to the main road.
Right.
That's not the issue.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jen.
Through the chair, traffic aside, because we don't have that data yet, in terms of the way that this draft is written, my overall concern is that the daycare, I guess my overall concern is setting a too aggressive of a time frame in order to make these observations. Because even if we say 60% at 9 months and then say everything's fine at 100% at a year, well, it's a new daycare, it's impossible to find teachers right now. What if they can't even get up to 60% because of licensing or inability to find staff or whatnot, for whatever reason, they can't even get to that 60% until over a year. And so what we observed at 9 months, it wasn't even 60%, it was 35%. So my concern is that we say, if we set these strict time limits and then they're up, but then we never actually had a chance to observe at full operational capacity or that first check-in at 60% capacity, no matter what time that falls in. That's my concern.
That's kind of where I was going with the duration of time, to give it a little bit more time to get to that 60%, but maybe they can document that they're at their 60%, and that may trigger when we start the process, per se.
I guess the counter to both arguments is like, how long do we want to drag this out for? We can't just be like, well, indefinitely because you haven't reached 100%.
No, but I think,
5 years.
to Jen's point, it could be, it could be an additional month and a half potentially added on. I think maybe if you turn around and say, look, we're at 60% now, the clock starts ticking. I mean, we could set the guideline there, so we already know. So your thought of, we think they're at 60, but they're only running at 30, it's a false reading. So, I mean, if we can set it up that way, that could work as well.
Because the whole intent behind it is just because there's concern, at least me personally, about just the layout, how tight the site is with very small children coming in and out of cars, daycare drop-off pickup, parents within one section of parking, two-way traffic. And so I don't feel like we can make an accurate analysis of any concerns that may arise through the drop-off and pickup situation until they're at that 60% and then 100%
Sure.
capacity.
So we can ask for that and just make that as part of our agreement in the draft, right?
It's just having to happen in a reasonable amount of time. We can't
Yeah.
have like a
No,
permanent
I get it, yeah.
stranglehold because you haven't reached 100% yet. You still have these restrictions on you.
It could be a teeny bit long, it could be a shorter period of time. It's just based on when it actually, when it transpires, that's all. But, go ahead, Council.
I think you've already stated the point I stood up to make, which is one of my notes is to discuss with council if the board authorizes me to do this and figure out what that initial trigger is going to be. Because it really shouldn't be linked to the calendar. I don't know anything about running a daycare. But I know you don't get 100% enrollment the very first day, right? You advertise, you get some sort of connection with your population, and then people start to enroll, and so there's a ramp-up period, I imagine, like any business. So what we may need, and what I would discuss with council, is a notice provision, some exchange of information. Maybe they could provide us, not details, but enrollment data. Here's where we're at, here's where we think we're gonna be.
Yep.
We've got X amount of applications. We think on March, we're gonna be at 50, and in June, we're gonna be at 60.
Yep.
Why don't we start the clock now?
Yep.
So we can have that kind of interaction while this is happening.
And it's good information for both you guys to work from and from us to work from as well. I mean, we're here to make it work now.
That's fine, that's the intent. That's
Yeah.
fine, I think we can
Okay.
work together to make that happen.
Okay, good. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Amy, do you have any questions, comments? So I guess for the next meeting, do you want to
The next
go
one
the,
would possibly be January 23rd.
want to go the 23rd? That'll give enough time for everybody to evaluate the
Yeah,
traffic.
actually, does that work for
That's what
council as
I'm
well?
asking.
Because I know you two want to discuss, is that enough time?
Is that
Yeah.
enough time? And then the traffic report will be in and,
Sounds like it's in, so.
yeah,
we
it's
should
just, it's so people, well, with the holiday and it's gonna throw a little bit of a curveball.
be-
But,
That's fine,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
okay.
I'd rather make sure we get back in front of the board so we don't actually go down a false path, right? So
Sure.
we'll have a new draft, we'll have some new information, and we want to make sure we have an opportunity to check in with the board, make sure we're on the right path.
Sure. Make sure we're all working together. Okay. Sound good?
Motion to
Good.
continue to the 23rd?
So moved. Whoops, second, sorry. Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you all. Enjoy the holidays.
Have a great holiday, too. Thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments? I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday, have a great Christmas. Enjoy. Happy New Year.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Merry Christmas all.
Merry
Good night.
Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a great holiday.
Thank you, Mike.
Merry Christmas, Mike.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Maxine, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Basically two processes. One, if you're going to college, and two, if you were going into career and technical education to become a plumber, and neither one of those touched one another, and they didn't even have similar pathways. I was so wrong. I'm